Take political correctness and throw it to the garbage. The main threat and the immediate threat is radical Islam. And radical Islam is the main threat for America, is the main threat for Europe. If you open your borders and you invite everyone because you are so kind,
Sure.
you are committing a suicide. We can lose our countries if we don't go on the fight. We can lose Western civilization. And I think Belgium will be the first European state to be Muslim, and many other states can follow. And if you're listening to the Islamists in America, they have a vision. 100 years, America would be a Muslim state.
My name is Stefan Tompson. I'm the founder of Visegrad 24, and I'm standing with Minister Amichai Chikli, the Israeli Minister of Diaspora Affairs and Combating Anti-Semitism, outside where you just held the second international conference on combating anti-Semitism. Amichai, what are the main conclusions? Where is anti-Semitism coming from?
Well, so I think we had a great conference with many guests, super important, former Chancellor of Austria, Sebastian Kurz, the former Prime Minister of Australia, Scott Morrison, the Prime Minister of Albania, Edi Rama, the head of the Swedish Democrats, Jimmy Acheson, the American Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, and many Prime Minister, and many, Benjamin Netanyahu, and many, many more. So it was a super important event at a critical time. And I think that one of the main messages carried out from this conference is to understand that we need to align and combine forces together to combat the lethal anti-Semitism, and lethal anti-Semitism that actually kills people. And we have Manchester on Yom Kippur, and we have Bondi Beach, Australia, and we have Boulder, Colorado. All these incidents were carried out by Islamists. So yes, we have a problem on the far right of anti-Semitism. It's true. We have a problem with the far left weaponizing human rights and attacking the Jewish state. This is all true. But the main threat and the immediate threat is radical Islam. And radical Islam is the main threat for America, is the main threat for Europe. And therefore, instead of just being focused on just anti-Semitism and make it like a Jewish problem, we need to work with our partners, with our allies, to combine forces against radical Islam. That, I think, is the most important thing. And the fight against radical Islam is twofold. One is within America and within Europe. That's the quiet mode of radical Islam.
Self-jihad.
Yeah, so da'wah, in Israel they call it civil jihad. Civil jihad, NGOs, the mosque. So there was no violence there, okay? So this is one. And then you have, on the global sphere, Qatar, Turkey, the jihadists in Syria who are butchering the Alawites and the Druze and the Kurds. This is all the same fight, the same war. And we need to fight it together.
What are some of the practical steps that European countries can take to fight radical Islam?
First thing to do, take political correctness and throw it to the garbage. Okay,
Yes.
and let's start to speak directly what is the challenge and what is the threat. And if you cannot say that radical Islam is the threat, that's the number one thing. That's what I call leadership. Let's go back to Australia. Up till this moment, Prime Minister Albanese didn't even say the words radical Islam. They are speaking about hate speech, gun control, as if these shotguns just randomly went and fired the innocent people. So if you cannot even say radical Islam, there is no way to go. That's the first step, leadership. Identify the problem and call it what it is first. Second is immigration. There's a huge, we are saying Europe, but actually there's a huge difference between Hungary, Budapest, Czech, Poland, and what's happening in Belgium or the Netherlands.
Sure.
So it is immigration. Immigration. If you open your borders and you invite everyone because you are so kind,
Sure.
you are committing a suicide, because many of these immigrants who came from Syria or Pakistan or I don't know where, they do not share anything with European civilization. They don't believe in human rights. They don't believe in the freedom of religion, the freedom of speech, nothing. They share nothing in common. So it's a all different story if you have someone who wants to integrate or someone who wants to infiltrate and coming with a purpose, okay, to take over your country. And this is not like a conspiracy theory. You can go back to the videos came from Al Jazeera with Sheikh Yusuf al-Qaradawi, who said, we are going to conquer Europe without even shooting one bullet. How? With da'wah and with immigration. So there are bold leaders such as Viktor Orban and many others. And we have our friends on Vox, like Abascal, and we have our friend Jimmy Acheson from the Swedish Democrats. And these people are calling it and saying, we need to control our borders, otherwise our countries will be doomed. And that's the reality. And today, Budapest is one of the safest capitals worldwide for Jews and for Israelis. If you go now to Budapest, main language in the streets after Hungarian is, I think, Hebrew. Immigration policies make it safer. So Central and Eastern Europe, they have a whole different approach, and which I think is far more wiser and far more effective in addressing the threat of radical Islam.
There's a small country in the Middle East that has been busy funding media operations and has been funding universities and has been infiltrating governments. That country, despite what liberals might say, is not actually Israel.
Yeah.
That country is
Qatar,
Amichai.
of course.
Tell me about the problems with Qatar.
Okay, so to understand the problem with Qatar, we had the politicians in the European Parliament who were actually bought by the Qataris to make sure that the World Cup will be in Qatar, and they were caught with...
And the human rights abuses of the Qatari regime would be swept under the rug and ignored by European leaders who are usually obsessed with human rights.
So this we can prove because we had the investigation and people went to jail. The current campaign, we know about the campaign, but we still haven't caught the people with the
money
suitcase.
bags.
But be sure that the same patterns, only more sophisticated, are being carried out now. And we had Ambassador Mike Huckabee, U.S. Ambassador for Israel, who said regarding Tucker Carlson something fascinating. He said, look, he never spoke the way he speaks now in the past. He's conservative, pro-American, and all of a sudden he speaks about Sharia law, Hamas as a political movement, in favor of the Iranian dictatorship, who brutally massacred tens of thousands of innocent Iranian people. He said, there is no way that a shift of his views can be so radical, so fast at the age of 50. So there is something else. I don't have the proof, but there is something else, and I think it's money. And I think that this is what we need to understand about Qatar. The same way they bought politicians 10, 15 years ago, they're doing the same thing now with top influencers and also politicians.
Amichai, the conference is over. As you can see, the final guests are leaving. What are some of the main conclusions from this conference? What are you most happy about?
First, I'm very optimistic because you can see the importance of working together. You know, there are some things that were said here that for many of us, it's difficult to say it out loud in a normal situation because it's out of the box. It's not politically correct to call out Islamism for what it is, to say out loud, how do we see immigration policies, to work together and to really understand that if we don't do it together, we will fail in the battle. And if we fail in the battle, it's not about us. We live in let's say, the conditions that we have now in Europe and we have in Israel are good conditions. But for our children, we can lose our countries if we don't go on the fight. We can lose Western civilization. And I think, by the way, Belgium will be the first European state to be Muslim, and many other states can follow. And if you're listening to the Islamists in America, they have a vision. 100 years, America would be a Muslim state. Let's be very, very honest and very, very serious by identifying the threat and working together to win this battle.
Amichai Chikli. Thank you
Stefan,
so much, sir.
Thanks so much.